All right, let's do it. Bryce Gelman here. Going to be discussing the Yankees and just more BS, more. I the best way I can put it, and you see it in the title, is a delusional way of thinking. About not only about Anthony Volpe from Aaron Boone, but just about the entire roster as a whole. And I'll be discussing it from a macro view, the Yankee struggles, and I'm also going to be discussing it from a micro view and focusing on Anthony Volpe's struggles, what the Yankees can do going forward, them obviously not yet addressing their huge need of a competent hitter at third base or just anyone who could slot in and fill that hole that's been so massive for what feels like years at this point. So I wanted to get into the whole idea of the macro standpoint of the Yankees right now and where they are in the standings, and obviously being being number two in the AL East race after being up plenty of games earlier on in May and then early on in June. They've just sucked since. And now they're playing the Blue Jays in a massive series. They lose last night 4-1. Two massive errors made in the fifth inning by Anthony Volpe and Oswald Peraza, who has statistically been over the last month and a half, 2 months of the season, has been the worst hitter in all of MLB. In all of MLB. So, you look at this team, you look at the holes they have in the roster, and you think to yourself, what the hell is going on? Why is this team so bad? And there's holes, of course, and there's holes on every team. Not every team is, stacked 1 through 9 on the field, has got all this depth. Not every team is like the Dodgers. Yeah, the Mets have holes. The best other teams, the Padres have holes. Every one of the most solid teams in all of Major League Baseball have some holes to fill. Maybe not as big as the Yankees have one here with their third base, the opening at third base. I mean, there's guys who played it. Even DJ LeMahieu got some run there. Thank God he was DFA'd. I discussed that last week or whatever week it was when it finally happened. But the Yankees have this massive hole to fill at third base. That isn't what's killing them right now. That isn't what we should be focusing on it. You look at the roster, you look at the hitting stats from top to bottom. Again, macro view here. This might be the most consistent hitting the Yankees have gotten from guys, in the lineup from 1 through 9, and also not just the guys in the lineup, but also the guys on the bench. Their depth. They're the Ben Rices of the world, the Trent Grishams of the world. Even though both those guys have played a healthy amount, even with the return of Giancarlo Stanton. But you look at this, you look at these hitting stats. And there's consistency. There's the lefty-righty success. You got Grisham, who still is an OPS over 800. You've got Jazz, who's got an OPS over 800. You've got Ben Rice, who's got an OPS near 800. This is everything the Yankees and us fans have been asking for over the past few years. Yes, they had Juan Soto last year, but they were very top-heavy. You saw it in the playoffs. You saw it in the regular season. The Yankees acquired, obviously, multiple players over the last couple of years. Trent Grisham being a part of the Soto trade, Paul Goldschmidt, Bellinger, guys they acquired because they lost Soto. Maybe they would have still went out and gotten Paul Goldschmidt. Maybe they still would have gotten Cody Bellinger. But you look at these hitting stats. Should they translate to a 56 and 45 record? Or 54, 55 and 45 record? Now 4 games behind the Blue Jays. Does that translate? Should that translate to that record? No, it shouldn't. The Yankees' biggest problem right now is their lack of awareness, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. Their idiotic manager. And to put it frankly, their awful bullpen, which historically over the last 7-8 years has been the Yankees' strong suit. It has been the most consistent part been the most consistent aspect of this Yankees team. They finally get consistent hitting. They finally have not just one or two, and Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton last year being Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. They've got 6 or 7 guys that have solid OPSs. The standard hitting statistics, the advanced hitting statistics, all support the narrative that the Yankees have figured out, finally, how to construct a lineup. And even amongst the atrocious, hideous, heinous, disgusting play from Anthony Volpe, the rest of the guys have picked up the slack. Bellinger solid. Shaz solid. Goldschmidt got out to a good start. He still has a high 700 OPS, whatever. With his defense, it's fine. You justify, his struggles at the plate. Wells has been solid. Upper 700 OPS. A guy who is a catcher. It's something that, no, not everyone's going to be Cal Raleigh. You don't really expect a lot of offensive output from catchers. That OPS, what Wells has given you, is good enough to be a solid catcher on a World Series team. So you got it from him too. You got it from all these different guys. Stanton has come back and has figured it out at the plate very quickly, might I add. If you remember the 15 times that Giancarlo Stanton has gotten hurt with the New York Yankees, you'd remember the fact that every single time he comes back, he struggles at the plate. He looks uncomfortable. He's jumping out of the box. His timing is off. Knock on wood that doesn't change, but he has looked good. He went through a bad stretch. Now he's back. All right? So you add that into the mix. What the hell is going on? What is happening? The bullpen sucks. The bullpen is terrible. Starting pitching hasn't been great either. You lose Clark Schmidt for this year and next year. Of course, Garrett Cole got the Tommy John. He's out this entire year. He's out probably half of next year. You've got 2 top-end rotation arms in Fried and Rodon. Do you really expect these 2 to carry the load of the rest of the team? Luis Gil should be returning in just a, what's the latest on Luis Gil? He should be back within the next few weeks. And he played really well in his rehab start. Terrific, amazing. The Yankees desperately need Luis Gil back. They also desperately need some high-end bullpen arms. Matt Blake has been a revelation since he was brought in a few years ago in turning around guys who the advanced metrics maybe to them and the analytics jumped off the page, spin rate, yada, yada, yada. But the standard pitching statistics of these guys that the Yankees have brought in, Clay Holmes being one of them, Luke Weaver being another, did not jump off the page to you. They were sold for scraps. They were DFA'd. They were brought in by the Yankees. Matt Blake fixed them. Was that sustainable? We saw it consistently throughout the course of the last 7-8 years, not necessarily just with Matt Blake. In 2017, Matt Blake wasn't with the Yankees. That bullpen was unbelievable throughout that entire playoff run. Now you got Matt Blake. Everything he touched turns to gold. This year, whether you want to call it a fluke, whether you want to say that the output from the bullpen, the competency, the consistency was unsustainable, fine. Could be a fluke. Could be that it was just unsustainable. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because of how bad the bullpen has been. And this isn't something a lot of people are focusing on. They're focusing on the struggles of Anthony Volpe, who has, rightfully so, received a lot of criticism. Again, this is fair. A lot of criticism. A lot of hate and anger from the fans because of what he has represented for the Yankees. The lack of moves that they made in order to create space for him to be the starting shortstop of the New York Yankees. Something that he grew up dreaming about. And I'll get to it in a second. Because people are focusing on that, and that's what, the headline here, my title partially says. It's something that has pissed off a lot of fans, including myself. So again, I'll get to that. But this roster as a whole, the makeup of the lineup, finally good enough. If that translates to the playoffs, maybe the Yankees get finally, I have no hope in this, but something changes in the mind of Aaron Judge and he stops with this mental midgetness that he's had and the choking in every single playoff since 2018. If that stops, then this Yankees lineup continues to hit as well as they have hit. There should be no excuses to why the Yankees can't bulldoze their way through the American League playoffs like they did last year. The Tigers are amazing. They could be a massive threat to the Yankees. The Blue Jays have been really solid as well. Can never count out the Astros. Definitely say that if you're the Yankees. They got to figure it out in terms of the bullpen. I think, yes, third base is a huge need. It is. But I think the bullpen might be a bigger need. Some high-end bullpen arms. And they traded for Devin Williams, who started off atrocious. He was terrible. He's been good, but not good enough to lower his ERA into a place where the Yankees are comfortable. Maybe the Yankees still bring him back. He's on his last year of his contract, eligible for an extension. Maybe the Yankees bring him back. Maybe they get a little discount because of how bad he was this year. He hasn't cut it. And the majority of the other relievers on this team have not cut it. 7 guys last year, the minimum of 25 innings pitched, had ERAs of 3.4 or low. This year it's 4, and technically you count 3 right now because Yerry De Los Santos has arguably been their second best reliever. He hurt his shoulder around a month ago. He's got a few rehab assignments upcoming. It's very difficult, as we saw with Luke Weaver and how good he was at the start of the season. The second he got hurt, the second he came back was not the same player. It's very difficult for any player in MLB. It's easier for some guys, but for 90% of the league, it's very difficult to return to form after you get injured, especially if you were really good before said injury. So there's a lot of pressure. You come back, you're expected to produce as much as you produced before the injury. You look at Luke Weaver, the under 0.6 ERA before he got hurt. He comes back, he's allowing a home run every other game. It's difficult. It's very difficult. So Yerry De Los Santos comes back. Who knows what he'll be? It's just like it's a rotating door of different guys on the Yankees who have gotten hurt. In terms of their relievers, it's got to pick up. Matt Blake has to figure these guys out. Scott Efros, maybe he could start giving the Yankees, what he gave the Cubs before they traded for him a few years back, because he had so many years under his control and he's had 6 million injuries since. Maybe he could be the guy who the Yankees thought he could be. There are a few other guys. Mark Leiter Jr., hurt. And there's a bunch of other relievers. Loizaga, Ian Hamilton, who have been good in the past, who've just not been good this year. And there's some hope that these guys could turn into something that the Yankees expected them to be. There's some hope, of course. That's the macro view. I watch these games. When I look at the stats on paper, this is what this tells me. It's very easy to get caught up in the incompetence, the ineptitude of Anthony Volpe behind the plate and in the field. And that's where I'm going here. This is where I'm going as well. So I'm kind of a hypocrite in this. But it's true. People are focusing on him a lot more than these larger issues for the Yankees. And again, it's fair. Volpe sucks. And that's what I'm going to jump into right now. This is what Aaron Boone had to say about Anthony Volpe. I'm going to give you the short part of this, and the comment that pissed off a lot of people. And this is rightfully so as well. He said that Anthony Volpe is still a top shortstop in Major League Baseball. Yeah, he's a top shortstop. If he went back and played in Little League right now, if he went back to New Jersey across the GW Bridge through the tunnel and played again in Jersey at the Barton, he'd be a top-end shortstop. He's not a top-end shortstop in Major League Baseball. In the year of 2025, the eye test, what we see on paper, he is not good at all. He is not a good player. 3 straight years of underwhelming offensive performances. 3 straight years of extreme inconsistency at the plate. And you could look at his stats. You could look at the fact, yeah, he's increased his OPS over 3 years now. His OPS is 685, whatever the hell it is. Not good enough. The Gold Glove guy, someone the Yankees always believed in, in the field. They always believed in him in the field. Like, his bat was iffy. He was very consistent at the time. We saw in spring training in 2023. We saw in the minors. We saw, some people saw in high school, his ability to use all corners and all ends of the field. He wasn't necessarily a huge power guy, but he got on base a lot, and he exhibited an amazing glove and some speed. Those were the 2 things, the speed and the contact, and 3 things, and most importantly, the potential to be a top fielder in Major League Baseball. They noticed that, but this has just been a complete disaster with the Yankees. 2023. They've got these guys coming up. I guess this is the 2022 offseason. They knew Volpe was potentially going to be the shortstop of the future. And there was a point in that offseason in which there were a multitude of middle infielders available, particularly shortstops. Number 1 being Corey Seager. Corey Seager being the most sought-after target, the most talked about potential target for Yankees fans all over. And instead of going out and signing a guy in Corey Seager, who could have won a World Series with the Yankees at this point, the Yankees chose to continue to believe in Anthony Volpe. And Anthony Volpe has been one of the most underwhelming young talents that were really, really hyped up in Yankees history. And we see what we are seeing on a nightly basis. Yes, he had 2 home runs the other night in Atlanta. Do I think that continues? No, I do not. Don't call me a pessimist for that. I have no reason to believe that it will. All right. But you've got this delusional manager, an Aaron Boone, who is doing nothing to light a fire under Anthony Volpe's ass. I know deep down, I know that Anthony Volpe is seething. He's extremely upset. His goal as a kid was to become the shortstop of the New York Yankees. He has accomplished that goal. And now at the highest level, in the biggest market in Major League Baseball, he has failed at a catastrophic level. And we are here, sitting here, listening, hearing from the manager that he's a top shortstop in Major League Baseball. Are we serious? Aaron Boone, can you look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you are not full of shit? No, you cannot. We all know this. And for the life of me, I could not understand why this has been the case over the 7 years in which Aaron Boone has been the manager of the New York Yankees. He goes to extreme lengths to placate his guys, to manage these egos, to coddle his players. And we don't necessarily know what goes on behind closed doors. We don't know what he's saying to these guys. But the fact of the matter is, you got a guy in Joe Girardi who was very vocal about his players' ineptitude in terms of his discussions with the media in his press conferences. He famously said a lot about Gary Sanchez, who sucked that year. He was awful behind the plate. And over the last 7 years, I cannot think of one instance, one circumstance in which this strategy from Aaron Boone in coddling his players and his comments to the media has resulted in said players actually turning their games around. You heard it for years with DJ LeMay. You've heard it for years in terms of the Yankees from a general standpoint. You know, there's the joke floating around. It's not a joke because it's been said a multitude of times. It's right in front of us. Is it really right in front of us? Has it been right in front of us? You know, there's this belief, not only with Aaron Boone, but the Yankees organization at large, that this team does not have fundamental flaws, that they weren't exposed at the grandest stage in baseball, in the World Series last year, by a team in which they had just as much talent as. And they chose to continue to prop up guys like DJ LeMay, like Anthony Volpe, guys in which we know deep down are not good enough to produce at the level they need to. And it's what's so frustrating about this Volpe saga. And why you see people on Twitter, talking heads in the media that cover the Yankees, losing their collective minds about Anthony Volpe's play. And as I said, there was the belief in Anthony Volpe, the fielder. There was belief in his Gold Glove potential. And historically, through his first 2 years, he was above average, a plus fielder. This year, he leads the league in errors with 12. So not only is his incompetence at the plate extremely concerning, but also the fact that he can't field as well. And it begs the question, what the hell do the Yankees do about this? What do you do going forward? If this guy isn't even giving you solid defense, that you could trust him in arguably the most important spot in the field, second spot in the field, maybe center field, then what the hell are you going to do? You can't justify playing this guy. If he's this bad in the field, and he's also this bad at the plate, you can't play the guy. And if you're just joining, I'm talking about Aaron Boone's comments about Anthony Volpe, who has been an absolute disaster over the start of his Yankees career, even more this year. But I just think that there's reason to believe that this will never change. I just don't know if he has it within him become a consistent hitter in Major League Baseball. And it's clear that his struggles at the plate, the pressures that he faces every single time he gets up to bat, has translated to defensive ineptitude as well. It's just like guys in basketball. Their shots aren't falling on the offensive end. Their defense takes a hit as well. We saw this a lot with R.J. Barrett. We see it sometimes with OG Anunoby. We see it a lot for Mikal Bridges. I think it's just what happens. Confidence can be killed very easily if you're a professional athlete, especially in a city like New York, with the utmost pressure of any market around the United States. So, it begs the question yet again of what the hell did the Yankees do about Anthony Volpe? What the hell did the Yankees do about this open third base spot? Because they haven't had one, feels like, for years. Josh Donaldson was their plug-and-place guy. Whatever happened there. And you see Spencer Jones absolutely mashing in AAA. Batting .426 in 16 games. 10 home runs. I can't do quick math ratio, but that's like 0.6 home runs per game, 0.7 home runs per game, something like that. And there is supposed interest from the Yankees in Eugenio Suarez of the Diamondbacks. I believe that. I'm like 95% sure. You think I should know this, right? Yeah, he's a Diamondback. I'm right. I'm right. I don't know why I second-guessed myself there, but Eugenio Suarez. That is the guy the Yankees have been linked to. Do you trade Spencer Jones in a trade for Eugenio Suarez? I say no way in hell. No way in hell. Is there a lot of space for him at the major league level? No, there is not. What do the Yankees plan about doing with Cody Bellinger long term? We don't know. Do the Yankees believe in Jason Dominguez as a long-term guy for the Yankees? We don't know. And the last one, perhaps the most important, when will Aaron Judge cease to be a good enough fielder in which you don't need to DH him? How long is that going to be before Aaron Judge becomes Albert Pujols? Or, the multitude of other guys that were not good enough to play the field. Giancarlo Stanton being one of them. So there are a lot of unanswered questions here. A lot of frustration going around from Yankees fans, I'm sure within the Yankees organization as well. It remains to be seen what they do with the impending trade deadline. Well, as you can presume, there will be a lot more content from myself and plenty of other people. But stay locked in with what I have to say, because there's going to be a lot to react to within the next couple of weeks to the Yankees. A lot of make or break series before they have an easier part of the schedule in mid-September. So stay tuned with that. A lot of things to look out for. Anthony Volpe's got to figure it out, get his head out of his ass, or else we are going to be having some very difficult conversations about the future of this organization. That'll do it for today. I have a video coming out about my reaction, my takeaways from the Knicks Summer League. That's coming out later today. That's a video on my YouTube. I'll post a link to that, maybe a clip as well. Stay tuned for that. One Giant Step coming out later on this week with Sean Morash. Did something last week about the things we're rooting for the most to happen by the end of the training camp. Today, the entire team reported for training camp. A lot to be excited about as well, or a lot to be doom and gloom about with the Giants, depending on how you feel about this upcoming season. But a lot to discuss. Some Jet stuff, Met stuff as well coming your way. So until next time, I'm Bryce Gelman. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. Peace.